Hello, everyone. We're doing another stream today. Don't really know how long it'll be, but does it really matter? No, I don't think so. We are today complaining about the state of bike infrastructure in the United States. And boy, let me tell you, is there a lot here. There's a lot to unpack. I've had this glitch before. Freaking Google Earth is actually the worst. I think the only way to fix it is like, here we go. You switch from like 3D to 2D. And, maybe let's try it again. Okay, now we can't even switch to 3D. Some actual BS right here. Holy. But you should have sorted this out before the stream. That's a very good point. I should have done that. Because now I actually can't even tell where I'm at. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, so to fix it, you press the freaking show your location button. Yes, I've already explained that I'm somewhere in this area. Don't take this pinpoint for actuality, because it's not true. But, or maybe it is, and it's a red herring. Well, today, I would like to, first of all, show off what I got from my bike tour today. My bike tour is a trip to Aldi. Not one, not two, but 3 Belgian butter waffle crisps with pure butter. Are they as unhealthy as they sound? Probably. I'm going to say probably. The serving size is 3 cookies. The arbitrary serving size is 3 cookies, which is 140 calories with 22 grams of carbohydrates, which actually doesn't seem that bad, all things considered. Some of the snacks. This is also my sweet bike bag my dad found for like $8. It's actually a nice one. Jaffa cakes. Gotta love Jaffa cakes. OG edition, not the strawberry ones. Although the strawberry ones are good too. As well as fig bars. Now, I fuck with these. Some people be like, but Zach, fig Newtons. Don't you know, like, the wasp, like, crawls in there and, like, you're essentially eating wasp larvae. It's not even the same species of fig, bro. You have it all wrong. So, bike infrastructure. Today we're looking at Fargo ND again, and I've covered a little bit of the, like, some of the reality of it. That, let's see here. Some of the reality of the current state of bike infrastructure in Fargo. Yeah. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. But I'm also a cyclist, and I think this perspective I've not covered very much as well. I do ride an e-bike. Yes, I do ride an e-bike. Some people, and understandably so, are hesitant on e-bikes and about them. They're fast. They're just as unpredictable as people on cyclists. But you should be paying registration and insurance and all of these other things like the rest of us car lovers. Here's the thing about a bike that a lot of people won't tell you. Now, believe it or not, a bike doesn't weigh as much as a car. So it's not going to kill you as easily. It's not going to accelerate. Well, it depends. Most bikes don't accelerate as fast as vehicles. What else? They wear the road less, so less cost to maintain infrastructure. Maintenance on them for the owner is way cheaper, and they remove vehicles from the road. So as far as the main things that drivers should be thanking people like me for, those are just a few. Now, if you're someone who drives and you hate cyclists and you don't want them in my way, well, at least for Fargo, it's legal for them to ride anywhere in the city. And that does include I-29 and I-94 if you're that crazy. Nobody is, of course, because it's actually ridiculous, and you have to really not value your life if you're going to be doing something like this. So, nobody does, except for some people. You'll always see some people like on the shoulder, either walking or biking. And do I think they're crazy? Yes. Do I think there are other options? Of course. But not much better options, to be honest, in the city of Fargo, as well as the cities across the United States. I know Portland, I know Seattle, I know Minneapolis, I know great cyclist places by U.S. standards, none of which will ever compare, mind you, to Amsterdam. I know it was built on bike infrastructure. I know it's very safe and everyone there bikes. However, that's kind of the point that I'm trying to get across, right? That those environments are way better for people on bikes. Simple as that. Downtown Fargo, we'll start here, because downtown Fargo is literally the only thing worth mentioning in Fargo. I'll talk a little bit more about some of the other like recreational bike lanes, but there's not a whole lot. There's a whole lot of recreational bike lanes, but not a whole lot of commuter bike lanes. What Fargo's been doing recently on NP Avenue, and this is a big plan that they've been working on for a long time. So NP Avenue, this is Northern Pacific Avenue, as well as First Avenue North used to be three-way one-ways for downtown, which every city in the U.S. to boost vehicle speed, like, decades ago, removed all the two-ways in their downtown and made them all, like, straightaway thoroughfares. Do you think, like, cramming a bunch of vehicles into like a downtown urban center, like not just Fargo, but like Minneapolis makes any sense? Like the actual idea of doing so is in of itself insanity. I mean, there's just no room. People will be like, well, there's room now. Yeah, there's room now because we bulldozed half the freaking city center to make way for cars. Like, do you think there were just never buildings on this whole block? Like, right next to the river, do you think this whole block pretty much had no buildings? We ripped them up. And not we, but Fargoans of the past and Fargoans of the future have now reaped the negative effects of that and have since tried to recultivate that sense of downtown and sense of everything else. In doing so, making everything, the way for cars, yeah. It's really hard to bike around because it's very inconvenient to do so, and it's very inconvenient to move around the city unless you're in a vehicle, and not just like a bike, like an actual vehicle. So, what do we do about that? Well, for starters, Fargo has started on these bike lanes here on NP Avenue. Are they connected to the other bike network? Not really. Are they going to be? Yes, there's plans to do so, and I think that is good. I think it's good. It's important to build bike infrastructure properly when you do build it. Holy shit. There's like a huge plane that's landing right now. That thing sounds like a goddamn, like, Antonov. Holy. But, yeah, so this is where the bike lanes begin. There's a lot. This is pretty much as good as it gets for bike lanes. They're separated from pedestrians. They're separated from vehicles, and not just with a curb here. So I don't actually know if this street view is updated yet. Maybe is. Yeah, so this is the bike lane, right, which they actually clear of snow, which is nice. But it's actually separated by a curb, and not just a curb, but cars park, well, except for this guy, cars park, on the road and not on the bike path. This is actually something you see all the time with these bike paths, is people are, like, actually imbeciles. Like, the parking space goes out to here, but people will park on the bike lane. And to be honest, you see cyclists, like, all the time getting ran off the road by vehicles. This is the shit they're putting up with. Like, someone in their car, you can't move a car. I mean, you can, but you can't you can't just push it out of the way. Like this is the shit we're talking about. So this truck, a little bit, people do this even in the summer months. Like, I don't understand. The curb's right there. The line's right there. The bike lane is actually very clearly marked in this case, and people still park on the bike lanes. I think it's just like nobody has any idea. Like, could this have been a better built bike lane? Yes, because they could have included plastic bollards that would have prevented people from actually like pulling onto the curb. So there are some things that could be improved. However, it's pretty clearly marked and like actually a separated bike lane, which is good. It's separated from pedestrians as well. It's clearly marked in the lane here. There's a neck down for people crossing, both walking and biking. There is a big no parking here next to the curb, which is great. And the lane widths are, let's see. Well, I just love how it automatically goes to miles. Isn't that great? 10 feet, which is pretty much what you want. But Zach, but what if I have my 11-foot wide vehicle? That's great. They don't make those. They actually don't, because there are standards that limit it. And if you do have something like that, guess what? This isn't actually like limiting you. There's no curb on either side. So, yeah, this is a great example of a good bike lane, separated. Problems I have with it are currently these crossings. They're not marked, both on University. This is University, and then that's 10th up there. These are the last remaining one-way pairs in Fargo for whatever reason. This intersection, if you're already on this side, great. That's pretty easy to get on the bike path. You just got to cross and get over there. You could probably even go this way because not that many people use it, because go figure, it's like not a complete bike lane, and I've seen people use it, but it'll take more time for people to actually start using it. It'll take more buildings, it'll take more infrastructure, it'll take probably even more pressure to get people on bikes, but it's a very good implementation to the city of Fargo. Again, markings for crossing. There probably should be one here. I get it's kind of like a private drive, but it's an alley, blind corner. People fly out of these all the time, and unfortunately, intersections are the most dangerous for vehicles and cyclists as well. This intersection actually has just been redone, and the bike lanes now continue like up here, as well as the inclusion of like probably the only bus lane in all of North Dakota. I've not seen a bus lane anywhere else in this great state. But yeah, the plan is with these bike lanes, and these are very similar to how Minneapolis builds them downtown. The plan is to extend them all the way down NP Avenue, which will be great. And I'm sure the city wants to build on all of these lots as well. Like, that's what Fargo's been trying to do, is building on old lots. And if we go back and see some of the older, let's go back to even 2017. This building right here didn't exist. So now, of course, they had to build a parking garage too. But it's whatever. They also built this recently within the past 10 years. And it's great as well. There's a great bike ramp to park your bike in an actual enclosed garage, which is nice. But people just sleep in it and piss in it, and of course they do. There's no surprise. This is now a building. This is now a building. There's a lot of good. This is now a building up here. These were I don't even know what that was, but it's a building now. This is a building. And now there's a building being built here, as well as another parking garage, which is so cool. I love parking garages. And then this used to be a big steel yard, but now it's just this. This intersection. They put this roundabout in between 2018 and 21. And a lot of people Hate it, of course. As well, from 2021, this whole area has been greatly built on, and now there used to be a big affordable building here, but now it's big old some affordable units. Anyway, the plan is to continue this bike lane all the way down NP Avenue, which has a lot of work to be done. There are bike lanes on this stretch of it already, but as you can see, they're not separated, they're dilapidated, and nobody wants to use that shitty bike lane. It's just simple as that. Nobody's going to use it. On the bridge, they're a bit better, but whenever people make bike lanes like this, they just fill with debris. It's they're dog shit. I shouldn't say they're dog shit. Like, they actually do act as a bike lane for the some people that will use them. Problem is, people don't use infrastructure unless they feel safe using it. Thing about the US, pretty much everything feels unsafe to bike on. And that's not just coming from me. There's a lot of statistics to back that up as well. I mean, there's a reason you don't see everyone out on bikes. Like, it's as simple as that. If it were easy to bike around, if it were safe to do so, and if it felt nice to bike around, people would be doing it. And so far, there's only that really in our urban centers and not so much around the rest of, the cities in the U.S. Once you get across the bridge, though, there's a nice, left turn bike lane here, which is the only one in Fargo Moorhead. This is actually Moorhead we're in now, so it's not Fargo, but this is U.S. bike infrastructure, so I can talk about it. And I would have talked about it anyway. But what Moorhead has done is build a two-way bike lane on what is Center Avenue for downtown Moorhead and what is NP Avenue for downtown Fargo. As you can see, same stretch here. And what Moorhead is doing is actually, I think, probably the best thing that any city could be doing in in the U.S. And that is redeveloping, this entire area. So this used to be Moorhead Center Mall, literally on Center Avenue, literally in the center of the city. If you couldn't think of a better thing to put in the center of a city instead of a downtown and mixed-use environment, a mall would be your next best thing, right? Well, unfortunately for mall lovers out there, no, that's not the case, because this shit sucks. And it sucks so much that they're tearing it the fuck up. They're tearing it up. And what they have built here is mixed use, more housing, more businesses as well. They're keeping the big old freaking tower of Moorhead City Hall. And they're building a new library. They're building more streets to build more, even more buildings on. And they're keeping the parking garage to create a very viable, livable space. That's not because of the parking garage, but they're not actually removing it because, go figure, these things cost a lot of money to build. Anyway, so this is going to be great when it's done. It's probably going to be working on this thing for the next 10 years, I'm sure. But this bike lane, I'm sure it is only going to be extended further down Center Avenue. There's no reason this needs to be 5 lanes. Nobody uses it. Nobody... Literally, I get it turns into Highway 10, but there's not this much traffic on this street until probably maybe this intersection, so there's no reason to have it 4 lanes here. And obviously that's the case because it's not 4 lanes here, so it's not like all this traffic just disappears and suddenly it becomes 4 lanes. Wow. It's so stupid. I mean, I get there's people coming from Maine, but there's not this many cars coming from Maine. Let me just tell you. But Zach, you're not a freaking city planner or traffic engineer. I have seen the traffic engineers here at NDSU. Let me tell you, there is no hope. There is actually no hope for a car-free future in the U.S. At least not in the next 100 years. I went up to people at the NDSU, freaking engineering project fair. So it's senior design projects, and I had my project up there. It's a little circuit board, because I'm doing electrical engineering. Ironically, this is my side gig, but yeah, I talked to some of the traffic engineers. One of the most awkward experiences of my life, because I went up there and I thought maybe these people probably have heard the joke, right? Considering they're traffic engineers, like, oh, one more lane and we'll fix traffic. That sort of joke. It's not a funny one because it's not really a joke. It's definitely a critique on how people think about building more road infrastructure in the U.S., which is great. They looked at me with blank stares. And I tell you, I could not believe that they didn't understand what I was talking about. So much so that I just walked away. I literally just left because I didn't even say bye. I was just like, I felt like I was being very condescending because I was trying to explain to them like my position on things. Yet they had just created like a semester long project on this like intersection that literally looks like every other intersection in every city. So they created an intersection that literally looks like this one. There's no reason to show you the model they made because they already built a few tens of thousands of those. So here's another one. But yeah, it was just the most like awkward thing ever. Moorhead has also been building a lot of this type of just more housing along Main Avenue, more mixed use. This is mixed use, which is great. Yeah, they're doing great. Bike infrastructure wise, there's a lot to be desired. This is really good, and Fargo should be building more like this too, especially for downtown. I mean, come on, guys. This is good stuff. I do think these sidewalks should be a bit wider on this side, but they're new. And the sidewalk's really wide, which is good, even including the bike lane and all the way out to here. Like this is good stuff, guys. This is good stuff. And not a lot of parking either. Like that's pretty cool. People can park in the ginormous parking ramp if they really want. Anyway, the bike lane then just ends. I get it takes time to connect things, but right now, that's how a lot of bike infrastructure is in the U.S. because when cities plan for bike infrastructure, they receive government funding and aid on certain parts of the project that include bike infrastructure. The current administration, I'm not sure how much of that aid gets actually dispersed, but that's kind of where things are at, and that's why a lot of bike infrastructure gets built. And it's also why a lot of the times it's dog shit because it's an afterthought. When you create afterthought bike lanes, bikers don't like them, obviously, because it's like riding in the middle of 50-mile-per-hour traffic. And vehicles don't like them either, because why the fuck would you put a bike lane in the middle of a goddamn highway like half of Florida does? That's the shit you see. So when you see bike infrastructure like this, it's actually good and thought out. And yeah, it's not connected to a lot of stuff, but it is connected to downtown Fargo. That's good to see. That's like someone actually put thought into this and not just, painted a couple lines like a lot of places here in Fargo. There's also another thing about walkability and bikeability. When you scale everything for vehicles, you get environments like this. So this environment is scaled very much for vehicles, meaning if you want to bike there or walk there, it's not going to be a pleasant experience. It's going to take you a long ass time to get anywhere, and you're going to be fending for your life the whole time. So that's exactly what happens here. When you see this nice multi-use path, right? This is a great multi-use path. Bikers can use it. Does it kind of get shitty here? It's separated. Yeah, it's a sidewalk too. But yeah, it's kind of shitty because there's no green space. It's all cement, and there's not like a physical barrier except the curb between you and oncoming traffic. When you see the bike lane continued over here, yeah, it's better. You have more of a separation. You have more green space. This is a decent bike lane. There is just one problem. There is 6 to 8 lanes of traffic right next to you. And you can imagine that doesn't create a space where biking is usually feasible nor inviting. So it's unbelievable that Mayor Tim Mahoney has said, hey, This is a walkable, bikeable community. And I would challenge him on that, because this may be able to be walked and able to be biked, but that doesn't mean it's inviting to do so. It's just you can just look by the amount of space dedicated here to vehicles as to walking or biking. It's almost all dedicated to vehicles. It's negative return on investment for cities, and biking here sucks. Not to mention, like, actually parking your bike if you're in this environment. So a lot of the times, Target's great. They actually have a bike rack here. But that's if you're lucky. The mall has bike racks. But this place, there is not like a bike rack in sight on these buildings. There may be one here. I don't think so. I guess we can check. No, but you can lock your bike up to this, and that's kind of what you have to do in pretty much every case. What do you think they're doing with this great space here? Take a guess. Come on. Think about it. It has nothing to do with bikes. That's why I'm talking about it. I would be talking about it if it had something to do with bikes, so let's be real. However, this is another car wash. You won't see a bike wash. Let me tell you. You will not see a bike wash, but you will see car washes everywhere. Yeah, just a lot of crumbling infrastructure, literally unused infrastructure. This is city land. Most of it goes unused throughout the day, and even if it is fully used, in the case of whatever building this is, as you can see, there's a lot of parking here that, even if it were completely full, would only be used for a third of the day. So all this land becomes useless as soon as, the lights go out in the business, which is, believe it or not, pretty standard, pretty run-of-the-mill. If you're thinking, how can we make our land more useful? You'd probably want to reduce the amount of parking, incrementally, which is one thing Strong Towns and Strong Towns Fargo advocate for intensively, to actually kind of improve a space. This environment, this is a pretty good walkable environment. Yeah, it's small. I don't really know what this is in the middle. Maybe just a common space, which is nice. But yeah, small, but it is a common space, which makes it walkable, surrounded by parking. That's good. Let's just try to build more of these environments with less parking. Great. What else do we have? Yeah. So again, biking here, if you want to build a bikeable environment, it has to be scaled for biking / walking. It has to be inviting, and it has to be safe. Of which crossing something like this, which is 1, 2, 3, count this as 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lanes of traffic, is pretty abysmal, as well as 35 to 40 mile per hour traffic on average going through this intersection. Nobody's biking here, bro. Literally not a single soul, except people like me and people who have no other goddamn choice. If you want to get people on bikes, you have to make it a choice. Actually, biking is just as convenient as driving. That's where you're going to get people actually biking. Another thing I'd like to talk about, just a bit more, is bike parking. Bikes get stolen all the damn time in Fargo. Not just Fargo, across the U.S. Like, I don't know, some statistic, a bike gets stolen probably every 10 to 30 seconds in the States, which is awesome if you ride your bike. That's so cool. Crazy thing is, if you do a little math and look at the average cost of owning a vehicle per year in the U.S., right now it's around $12,000 a year, which is just insane. Fargo's a bit less than that. It's like $10,500. Crushed a few numbers. That was of 2024, so maybe it's probably higher by now. But I couldn't imagine it's around that $12,000 yet. Anyway, for the average American, it's $12,000 a year. If you were to buy a $500 bike and it got stolen every month, you'd be paying half that. Like, don't you see how crazy that is? If you bought a $500 bike every month and it got stolen every month, you would have spent half as much as the average American on their car a year. What? Are you serious? Like, that's the shit that I'm talking about. A lot of that has to do with automakers trying to price vehicles like just extremely by doubling their size and selling you all these features. Like, you can't get a small, compact, easy vehicle in the US anymore because people have lobbied for big vehicles. Biking is literally almost impossible pretty much, year round, not just because of winter, but because the infrastructure isn't good enough to support biking. What else? Yeah, so actually parking your bike. There's a good program I saw in New York where it's like an app enabled, I can't remember the name of it, but it's an app enabled bike parking station. It's not just like our bike rental, which are very common, like City Bike in New York as well, and other big cities in the US and other big cities across the world. But it actually is a bike parking station that is unlocked and locked with your app or with your phone, and actually is like a mechanized freaking bike lock that will lock your bike and unlock it with the press of a button, which is super nice. Like, actually parking your bike on a bike rack in an environment like this where there's a lot of people walking who don't have other choices and a lot of people who tend to steal bikes. It's like your bike's gonna get stolen. It's simple as that. Do bikes get stolen in Amsterdam? Sure. But there's a lot more bikes. Do cars get stolen in the US? Sure. Yeah, but there's a lot more cars. It's a decrease with numbers game, but it's also I would like a safe environment where I can park my bike. It's actually riding a bike though is super nice for walking or parking. You always get the front, It's simple as that. You always get the best parking. There's a lot of incentives, and I think that's one of them that should actually get more people out on bikes. As far as incentives go, I think financially it's hard to show financially to people how much they can benefit by riding a bike and how much a bike would benefit them, especially in the US where everyone is kind of thinks about their car, where am I going to park my car, where am I going to drive. People don't really think about parking their car either because there's so much parking, but a car's a lot more to think about than a bike if there are proper places to park your bike and you don't have to worry about it getting stolen. But as far as incentives go, bike parking is a big part of that. I mean, people not only need to feel safe biking around, but need to have a safe place to store their bike. And building better, well-lit, monitored maybe bike infrastructure, more app-enabled bike infrastructure, bike parking would be great for not just cyclists, but for drivers as well, who benefit from there being cyclists. So a lot of people see cyclists, be upset, be angry that there's a cyclist on the road. And if any of you drive and just have some sort of innate hatred towards people biking, I urge you to just be a bit patient and understand that people on a bike, that's another car off the road, right? That's less wear on your road. That's less city finances going to maintaining that infrastructure. It's a simple thing. There's a reason, everyone drives in the US and it's a long one. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't build for people, on bikes. It allows more people to access businesses within our city. It increases access to transportation. It frees up more space for housing and businesses. We can actually reclaim a lot of this land within our cities. We don't have to keep sprawling outward. And a lot of people will say otherwise, but there's a huge problem with housing accessibility in the US, not just actually accessing housing, but also to the types of housing there is. In Fargo, there's a lot of apartment complexes, as you can see, and that's great. Density's good, but there's not a lot of options when it comes to housing. I would say there's more options in Fargo than there are in a lot of places in the U.S. For example, here there's a lot of connected duplexes. I guess these would be kind of row homes in this case. This is good. This is good density. But it's, again, it's really not creating an environment where it's like actually feels walkable and bikeable. This is a neighborhood, so, you're going to have slower traffic, less busy roads, but still, the way we've built infrastructure and zoned our infrastructure and land uses in the U.S. has resulted in, it's called Euclidean zoning. So essentially what that means is, yep.
Is this the right?
Yeah, that's the right one. Sweet. Okay. No, you're good. Sorry. I just got a big bag of 20 pounds of rice. Yeah, we are eating good. Essentially what Euclidean zoning means is that basically housing goes here, businesses go here, and light industrial, everything else goes here within the city. What ends up happening? Everyone in this part of the city now has to drive because there's no well thought out public transit to all of the businesses and jobs on this side of the city. And this is exactly what you see. All of this here is zoned exclusively for commercial, which means nobody can live here. Is there a good reason for that? No, unless you want to force people into vehicles and make it the dominant mode of transportation. Does it increase city finances? Does it produce a viable, livable, human-centric area? No, it does not. Unless, you're exclusively talking about the inside of West Acres Mall, which I guess you could say is very walkable because that's what malls were put here to replace. After we tore up our downtowns in making way for vehicles, we lost our walkable communities. And we lost it simply because we thought vehicles would be the way of the future. This is not a mixed-use environment, meaning nobody actually lives here. All of the walkability is centered around a sea of parking and really is kind of an eyesore, both, well, on inside it's not bad, but literally on the outside the land use is abysmal. Most of this parking is crumbling and not used. Even on Black Friday, the busiest time of the year, this infrastructure goes a lot and mostly unused, especially here. This West Acres Cinema, I don't think is in operation anymore. But yeah, so much so does this infrastructure not go to use that this becomes a hay bale maze in October. I couldn't tell you. Why people don't realize this, that our parking lots are so overbuilt that we can just, put a bunch of hay in it, have a maze, and then people can actually park because there's so much parking, and then they have a place to spend money, an activity to do. It really makes you think why we don't just make a lot of that permanent, but whatever. Bike access. You can access West Acres on your bike. You can access this area on your bike, but doing so is extremely difficult. Covering long distances with Euclidean zoning laws in place means all of this here, this whole distance is required the distance is required to travel here to businesses is immense, and biking, of course, is a lot more welcoming for more shorter distances. This is an environment where long distances have to be covered, and in the process, the only real viable methods, because things are so spread out that transit becomes infeasible, is everybody drives, where you get, where biking looks out of place. Like, if everyone's driving, you look out of place as a cyclist. It's hard to get people to see you as, another person, as an active member of your community, when they don't even see you as one of their own in another vehicle. A lot of things vehicles do as well is detach us from our environments. If you've ever driven around downtown, any downtown in a vehicle, windows up, it's and not just downtown, but anywhere, you don't experience the same as you would traveling by foot or by bike. You're missing out on the detail within the city. Your senses are limited: hearing, sight, and smell. Everything is limited within the vehicle. On a bike, however, you have it pretty much, essentially 360. I can swivel my head and look pretty much all the way around me on a bike. In a vehicle, it's hard to do with pillars and blind spots and everything else. But on a bike, it's very easy to see and hear what is around you. And not just that, you're traveling at a much slower speed where you can actually appreciate the things within your city, things along the way to your commute to work. There's a reason why biking to work is favorited among commute types to and from work, or anywhere else within the city. Biking is a pleasant experience when done properly and when infrastructure allows it to be. This is some good bike infrastructure downtown here. Green markings for lanes. Although should these lanes be fully marked all the way down? Yes. Should vehicles be flip-flopped between bike lanes and parking? Yes. It should be something probably like MP Avenue. However, this intersection does have a speed table. And not just a speed table, but a speed or a raised intersection, which acts as both. So it lifts pedestrians and bicyclists up into the line of sight of vehicles. It creates a speed hump, and there's also a neck down here, so parking is limited near the intersection. So there's more visibility for cyclists and people walking, and speed tables and raised intersections also create a level crossing for people walking and pedestrians. I use those terms interchangeably. People walking is a more humanizing term, in my opinion. Pedestrian has become something that almost dehumanizes someone in the U.S., in my opinion, and others as well. So if you hear me use the term people walking, it's not because I don't know what a pedestrian is. It's because of how I feel about the word and its use. When you say someone was a pedestrian was killed in a car crash, it doesn't sound like a person was killed to a lot of people. It was just someone who couldn't afford to drive or literally was outside their vehicle for any other reason and therefore almost deserved to die. Some people genuinely believe that cyclists deserve to die because they're riding on the road. It's a very common idea that a lot of people have, and a lot of those feelings are, there because of how cyclists have been treated, how cycling is viewed in the U.S. It's people oftentimes feel as though cyclists are cheating the system. There's a lot of things. They're also, taking up my road, get out of the way. There's a lot of reasons that go into the hatred that is sent towards cyclists and people outside of vehicles, and that's part of it. A lot of that is shifting in the U.S. A lot of people are starting to realize that we want walkable cities back. That's why I'm involved with a group called Strong Towns, and specifically Strong Towns Fargo here in Fargo. It's a great local conversation that advocates for walkability, bikeability, safe streets, financially resilient development, access to housing. Pretty much everything that's wrong with U.S. cities is in an effort to be fixed by Strong Towns. It's a lot of work, and they advocate for incremental change, which improves the quality of biking, slowly but surely improves access to housing, slowly but surely improves City finances slowly but surely. That's what you see. And if any movement is of importance to the U.S., I think it is strong towns. I think the way we interact with our cities on a day-to-day basis is almost exclusively, you know, we almost exclusively interact with our cities, almost all of us, on a day-to-day basis. And if it's not a good city, if it's not one that's centered around people, what benefit does it create, right? If a city doesn't work for people, then it's not much of a city at all. And a city should work for everyone too. There's a lot of people in the country, in the U.S., that don't drive, can't drive, for whatever reason it may be. And our city should be able to accommodate those people who oftentimes would like to access businesses, housing, parks, everything else. Our city should be able to accommodate those people and their transportation choice. When you talk about freedom in the U.S., you almost have no choice but to drive unless you live in a very large city, with a lot of exceptions, and not just a very large city, but the downtown / densest, most walkable portion of your city. Very wide streets like this create, high speeds, incentivize high speeds by drivers. You're not creating a safe space for people on their bikes, and you're not going to get anywhere if you keep building streets this wide and don't do anything to fix them. A strong town / tactical urbanism approach to an intersection like this, bollards. You can see it's painted right here, which is good. Problem is, this paint isn't maintained. So this is actually really good to see in Fargo that they even bothered painting these lines here and quickly kind of visually decreasing the size of this intersection, which does good if the lines are maintained and clear to see. However, it's obvious that that's not the case here at this intersection. These bump outs that aren't real bump outs but painted, I'm sure they will be built. They'll really be built in the future. Paint is a great first step. This is a really good bit of urbanism here in Fargo. Paint is a good first step, but actually building these out with bollards would probably be the next step here, to literally get a semi-physical barrier between vehicles and this bump out here. These are just parts of the reason why people aren't biking on streets like this, although some people are. It's a bit more slowed down downtown, but this is a two-way, one-way, as well as a oncoming lane. So it's a two-way, but two of the lanes are in one direction while one is in the other. One-ways incentivize high speeds. They give straightaways for vehicles. Not an incentive to bike on streets like this. Now Broadway, with all of the traffic calming measures in place, these neck downs at intersections, which also create short crossings for both people on bikes as well as people walking. These streets are so, their methods of traffic calming are so present that you don't need a speed limit sign on Broadway, and that's what you see. There's not any posted speed limits on Broadway and Fargo because the street has been designed for its intended speed. That's a big idea behind strong towns as well, is that idea of designing and engineering and building a street for its intended speed. Broadway is a good and one of the few examples of that in Fargo. A bad example would be this 12th Avenue Bridge, which I live near to, and see a lot of speeding across this bridge. I myself speed across this bridge. There is a saving grace, and there's a concrete physical barrier separating a very wide and not cramped sidewalk all the way down the bridge. It's a very long bridge, over the rail yard and everything. And because of that, it's very straight. It's very wide on the on the bridge as well. And vehicles, the posted speed limit on this bridge is 35 miles per hour. Let me tell you, it is very difficult to go 35 miles per hour on this bridge, and people will be passing you. You will not even be keeping up with traffic. Maybe if there's a lot of snow like here, the lanes are a bit narrower and people will go a bit slower. But trust me, people are going easily 10 miles per hour, pretty easily 15 over the speed limit, and going 50 over this bridge. This is an example of a street. This is more of a road than that wasn't designed and built for its intended speed limit. If it was built, if it's a posted speed limit of 35, you would expect the design of the road to be designed for 35 miles per hour. The lane widths on 12th Avenue are also, coincidentally, 12 feet wide, which is the same width as interstate lanes. Interstate lanes promote speeds of, interstate speeds. So 75, 80 miles an hour up, people can comfortably travel much faster than that and, feel comfortable. So, that is why, people speed on roads like this. There's nothing here to make them feel unsafe about speeding. This is also a good example of a street built with traffic calming measures in mind, built around people walking, human scaled. It's on a college campus, of course, NDSU, roll herd. We see 12-foot lanes from curb to curb. Actually, it's 14 from curb to curb. 12-foot lanes as well. This accommodates buses. The thing is that's different is there's a lot of factors that go into actually designing a road for its intended speed. You have curbs. You have twisting roads. So this is a road that's not just straight. So if you're driving through it, you have to consciously pay attention to how you're driving. There are also lanes that have trees right down the middle, as well as on the sides. A lot of people out walking usually, so that helps to create a visual signal to people that they should be driving slower, since there's actually a risk if they're to go off the road. A lot of people crossing too when, between classes and not between classes as well. A lot of people crossing the street pretty much anywhere at all times. So on campus, pedestrians have right of way. They can walk across the street wherever and not be penalized in any way. Of course, a car is still going to run you down if there's a vehicle, or, God forbid they're going 35 miles per hour through this or something, which can be done, of course. Of course, people can still speed. The thing is, the average speed of a street like this goes way down. Extremely, the rates of speeding go extremely far down as compared to a street designed like this. You start to create a very narrow bell curve, which means your average is set at whatever design speed you intend, and there's very little delineation from that intended speed. On roads like this, you have a very spread out bell curve, which means there's people going very high, high speeds down the street. There's an average, which is probably around, usually tends to be 5 or 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. And there's also people who are going way slower for whatever reason. You see a much more spread out bell curve. When you're talking about designing a street for its design speed, you want that bell curve to be very narrow. You want cars to be going the posted or designed speed limit, and not delineating much from that. I could probably almost guarantee you that bell curve is going to look a lot more narrow on a street like Albrecht than it is on a street like this because of the posted speed limit. Another thing posting a lower speed limit does than the road is designed for. So this road is probably designed for 50 miles per hour, yet and speeds upward of that. and yet has a posted speed limit of 35. So you'll get people who don't want to speed for whatever reason and are going to be going below the speed limit or right at that speed limit. You're going to be having a lot of people who realize that speed limits on this bridge aren't very well enforced, if at all. So they're going to be going way faster than the posted speed limit. Biking on this, across this bridge, is semi-pleasant. It's quite loud because of the high vehicle speeds. But it is separated, it is a wide path, and it is connected relatively well to campus, as well as a lot of housing down here. Thing is, once you get to the other side of the bridge, and we've talked about this already, is connectivity, it's crossing width, so there's not a whole lot here that's limiting vehicle speeds. It's creating a very smooth transition here. So if you create tighter corners, so more 90 degrees, cars have to slow down a lot more to make corners. You improve the safety of corridors as well as the safety for biking, walking, everything else. It's a very awkward intersection. These are not made straight here. It's almost as if this was designed solely for crossing here. I mean, there's literally nothing to cross to. It's like a freaking empty lot. This is the shit I'm talking about when you see poorly designed infrastructure. This is a great example of that. Crossing here, you have a pedestrian island, which is probably not long enough. You also have to think about time it takes to cross streets. So in this case, it's a long distance. These times to cross are probably not sufficient, which is why this pedestrian island is here with a button, I presume, in the middle. Usually I'm going too fast. Yeah. So if you can't make it across, let's say, this entire stretch here in one go, you probably wouldn't have this issue if you're on a bike. But if you're walking here, this is a very long distance to cross while walking. So much so that they've included a second button in the middle of this road. And mind you, these aren't slow speeds. In the middle of this road to allow people multiple chances across the street. Ridiculous. This is actually insane. There's a few ways around this. Of course, you can make the light longer. However, you shouldn't even have to beg to cross the street in your own city, and that's what these are called, and are usually referred to as beg buttons, or street crossing buttons, or pedestrian buttons, or whatever term you may want to put on it. They are a disgrace to people who either don't have access to transportation, are a disgrace to people with accessibility and mobility issues, and are a disgrace to anyone else who decides to traverse their city on foot. If I have to sit there and I have to press a button to cross a public street in my own city, it is actively restricting me from using the crosswalk, using the street. Of course, there's not a lot of enforcement. Like, if you were to hit someone in a crosswalk and your light was green and this little cross sign wasn't green for them, you're still going to be at fault. Like, this isn't the determining factor for someone in a crosswalk. Them being in a crosswalk is the determining factor. However, that's also still a little limiting, actually a lot limiting, because let's say I'm in an environment like, let's see, this is a pretty good environment. So you have a street like this, which is quite wide. It's quite long. There's housing and businesses on either side. Crossing this is inconvenient at points like this. Even though this is made for crossing, this is still probably not the most convenient of crossings, I can guarantee you. Points up here. No crossing here. No crossing here. And then a crossing, actually not even a crossing here either. So if you wanted to legally cross the road, unlabeled or unmarked frickin' crossings here. I don't think there's a crossing here as well. If you wanted to legally cross this road, you'd have to cross it at intervals of probably around at least 500 feet. So let's say I didn't want to cross here. I wanted to cross up here. Well, or I wanted to cross here, but there wasn't a marking. Well, now I have to walk 500 feet, cross legally, or I think it's illegal to jaywalk in Fargo, I should say. So I'm using that term. I'm using the legality of it a bit wrong. But safely, I should say. If you wanted to safely and in a marked crosswalk cross the street, I would have to walk 500 feet up here, cross the very wide street right here, 6 lanes of traffic, all in one go. This doesn't even have the luxury of a pedestrian island. And then I'd have to walk another 500 feet down here if I wanted to get to Camping World RV sales from my, apartment or trailer home just down the road. On top of that, there's not even any sidewalks right here. So you're pretty much screwed anyway. So, yeah, that's a lot of the, I guess, commuter side of biking and why biking is so difficult in the U.S. I've tried to cover a little bit. If there's anything else you're curious on, feel free to leave a comment about something you want me to cover. It doesn't have to specifically be in Fargo, but yeah, that's a little bit as to why biking is so horrible in the U.S. Biking is something that should be incentivized. There's a lot of benefits, not just from cities in of themselves to benefit from people biking, but as people ourselves, we can benefit a lot from building cities scaled around people and biking as well. Yeah, freaking downtown, bro. Downtown Fargo, it's getting there, biking wise. I'm gonna keep pushing for it. If anyone from Fargo is watching this video and is interested in, biking, or if you are in any city and you're interested in biking and want to get involved with how can I actually improve the experience of this, I strongly recommend you reach out to your local Strong Towns group if there is one, and if there isn't one, I would strongly suggest just trying to start a Strong Towns group within your city, because I can guarantee you there are at least a few people wherever you live that are interested in this sort of topic, and it's something that is gaining a lot of traction in the US. It's something that is standard everywhere else in the world when it comes to city building. It is we're at an inflection point. So this is the beginning of better biking in the United States. So yeah. Anyway, I hope anyone who joined enjoyed this stream. I hope you learned at least something. I'll probably be back maybe tomorrow, maybe Friday. Probably not Friday. Probably not this weekend, but definitely today I'm here. So I'm going to have to come up with better titles probably, and maybe figure out a way to be more engaging talking about cities. Right now, there's not a lot of engagement going on. I can see that. But anyway, appreciate you stopping by. Toodle-dee.